There was no press release, no dramatic fallout, no flashing red banner on the Netflix homepage, just silence. And in that silence, 100 million quietly evaporated. When Meghan Markle launched With Love Meghan in early 2025, it was supposed to be a rebrand, a pivot from Duchess to domestic goddess, a soft floral-scented comeback from the chaos of Spotify tabloids and lawsuits. But Netflix didn't bite, the viewers didn't show up, and the algorithm never even flinched. No trending banner, no social buzz, no mention on the home screen. For a $100 million deal, it was a $199 clearance aisle rollout. And now insiders confirm what the numbers had already whispered. The deal is dead. One Netflix source put it plainly. We're just waiting for the credits to roll. Meaning no new projects, no renewals, no marketing support. Just a quiet letting go. This wasn't just any contract, it was the contract. Signed in the golden glow of Megxit 2020, a 5-year, $100 million mega deal with Archewell Productions. Meghan and Harry were supposed to redefine streaming royalty. Their story told on their terms, funded by the platform that gave the Obamas their docuseries, Shonda Rhimes her empire, and now, no one. With Love Meghan was meant to be a lifestyle series, recipes, home, heart, but what it delivered was absence. No traction, no staying power, no top 300 ranking. In a world where even reruns of Suits outperformed Meghan's newest venture became an echo chamber of disappointment. A show about connection that no one connected with. Meanwhile, Harry's last meaningful contribution, Heart of Invictus, came and went like a whisper. Critically soft, commercially invisible. And that was the high point. Even the docuseries Harry and Meghan in 2022, though initially successful, has now aged poorly in public memory. What once felt intimate now feels rehearsed. What once felt explosive now feels exhausting. Netflix, always silent, began to lean away. No new green lights, no Archewell banners at upfronts, no promotional rollouts. And Meghan, so used to backlash, didn't realize the cold shoulder hurts more when it comes wrapped in corporate politeness. This wasn't cancellation, it was evaporation. Insiders now say Netflix is quietly winding down the partnership. No announcements, no statements, just the slow fade out of a deal once described as historic. And it's not because of scandal, it's because of flop. As one insider put it, they promised bombs and delivered tea cozies. The numbers are damning. With Love Meghan failed to break top 300 globally, viewer drop-off after episode 1 exceeded 70%. No retention, no virality. Even Meghan's own lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, barely managed to ride the PR wave. No synergy, no value, just a name without a hit. What's worse, there's no official severing, no dramatic split. Just executives who quietly stopped answering emails, budgets unrenewed, pitches ignored. The Archewell office may still list Netflix as a partner, but Netflix doesn't list Archewell back. That's the difference. And so 100 million doesn't end with a bang. It ends with a loading screen that never loads. Meghan thought she had found a new palace. But Netflix, like Buckingham, seems content to let her walk herself out. No need for guards, no need for scandal, just doors that don't open anymore. In Hollywood, relevance isn't lost loudly, it's muted, it's forgotten. And for Meghan and Harry, it seems the final act is already rolling. The credits are coming, and this time there might not be a season 2. It was the kind of deal that made headlines before a single frame was filmed. 5 years, $100 million, signed in the golden haze of post-Megxit 2020. The partnership between Netflix and Archewell Productions was pitched not just as a contract, but as a cultural moment. A new chapter, a new kind of royalty, a new media empire built not in Buckingham, but in boardrooms. But now, as 2025 nears its end, insiders say Netflix is quietly winding down the partnership. Because behind the pageantry, behind the headlines, was a portfolio that never delivered. Let's break it down. The deal was massive by industry standards, even by Netflix's splashy pre-2022 spending binge. $100 million for docuseries, children's programming, feature films, animation, original content that would inform, elevate, and inspire. What they got instead was modest. The initial wave included Harry and Meghan 2022, a docuseries built around the royal drama. It had strong early viewership, but lacked lasting cultural impact. Heart of Invictus 2023, a personal passion project for Harry, underpromoted, underwatched. Live to Lead 2023, Nelson Mandela-inspired, forgotten, Pearl A children's animated series about a time-traveling girl inspired by women in history. Canceled in development. And finally, with Love Meghan 2025, the lifestyle venture, her Martha Stewart rebrand, meant to be warm, inviting. Instead, it was cold. Not in content, but in response. Netflix insiders reportedly tracked With Love Meghan with concern. It failed to crack the global top 300. Viewer drop-off after the first episode was 73%. Social media chatter was minimal. Even fan accounts struggled to post content. One source described it bluntly: "It was a lifestyle show with no life." Compare that with Netflix's other high-profile deals. The Obamas launched multiple documentaries with staying power. Shonda Rhimes gave them Bridgerton. Meghan gave them lemon cake. That's not shade, that's the summary. By mid-2024, Netflix began to shift its posture. Executives stopped approving new pitches. Budget renewals were stalled. The Archwell slate thinned to whispers. A strategy was quietly adopted: don't cancel, just don't continue. Avoid drama, avoid headlines, avoid the perception of punishing the royal rebels. Instead, let the story expire on its own. Insiders say Netflix execs were frustrated by what they called an unattainable paradox. Meghan and Harry wanted full creative control but had limited production experience. They pitched blockbuster content but focused on personal branding. One exec reportedly said, "We were promised substance, we got self-mythology." And then there's the financial piece. Rumor has it the couple only accessed $15 million in project costs. The rest was contingent on deliverables. And now, with the clock ticking, they may walk away with little more than the early advance. The remaining $85 million left on the table, frozen in an account that may never be touched. Because Netflix doesn't throw good money after bad PR. And yet there's no official announcement, no headline screaming Netflix cancels Meghan. Instead, Netflix is simply looking past them. To new creators, to new bets, to relevance. For Meghan and Harry, it's a rare kind of exile, not from a palace, not from a country, but from a platform that once called them partners. They haven't been fired, they've been forgotten. And in streaming, that's the final verdict. There was a time when Meghan Markle could still count on Netflix, when Spotify dropped her Netflix state. When the British press circled like vultures, Netflix rolled out a global docuseries. When Archwell looked like a brand more than a business, Netflix gave it legitimacy. They were the last to blink. Until now, the partnership began with a bang. In 2020, just months after Meghan and Harry stepped away from royal duties, Netflix signed them to a 5-year production deal. The language was optimistic. Words like impactful, global reach, and storytelling that matters dominated the press releases. To some, it was a bold move: elevate a pair exiled from the monarchy and offer them narrative redemption. To others, it was content gold, unfiltered royal drama, prestige, and press. And to Meghan, it was validation that the world still wanted to listen. It wasn't just a business contract, it was a cultural stand. When Spotify collapsed under the weight of archetypes and headlines, Netflix still held the door open. When Pearl was canceled, Netflix PR smoothed it over as a strategic shift. Even when Meghan's personal brand started to overtake her content strategy, Netflix played nice. But behind the scenes, frustration was mounting. Compare Meghan's deal to those of her peers. The Obamas delivered multiple high-impact docs with social resonance. Shonda Rhimes gave Netflix the cultural juggernaut Bridgerton. Meghan and Harry gave one docuseries, one niche project, and then quiet. The math didn't add up, especially not in the new Netflix world where every dollar spent is weighed against global engagement and retention. And then came With Love Meghan. The platform didn't hate it, but it didn't care. Executives didn't rage, they just didn't renew. That's how streaming kills dreams, not with cancellation, but with disinterest. Netflix was the final institution to give Meghan a full bet. The monarchy gone. The press unforgiving. Spotify one and done. Hollywood tolerant, but indifferent. And now Netflix quietly joins the list of places that once called her essential, and now call her nothing. The silence stings more than criticism ever could. At least the press gave her a villain edit. Netflix gave her no edit at all. And here lies the loop. Every platform that embraced Meghan eventually grew tired of being the only one clapping. Royal family, media empires, podcast networks, now streaming giants, all drawn in by the promise of the story, all eventually realizing the story doesn't change. It just repeats. Maybe Netflix believed they were the exception, that their backing would transform her narrative, that they could create something lasting. But in the end, they did what everyone else did. They let her drift into the credits while queuing up their next show. And so the final loop is this. The one place Meghan thought wouldn't leave, didn't leave loudly. It simply looked away. Netflix didn't cancel Meghan Markle. They didn't issue a press release. They didn't terminate the deal in a blaze of drama. They just stopped caring, and in the world of streaming that's far deadlier than being fired, there was no scandal, no breach, no lawsuit. Just a cold, calculated shift from hopeful to disinterested. Like a show that gets renewed once then quietly buried beneath algorithm updates. Meghan Markle, once headlining Netflix's post-royal experiment, has become that kind of show. Not worth the outrage, not worth the energy, just quietly removed from the queue. Insiders say Netflix's approach is intentional. To avoid accusations of bias, to sidestep backlash from royal loyalists or Sussex supporters, to keep the stock price safe from gossip volatility. They don't cut, they fade. It's media euthanasia with a smile and a polite shrug. Compare the Meghan fallout to other public implosions. Spotify pulled the plug loudly, publishing houses cancel books, brands retract endorsements. But Netflix, they've mastered the vanishing act. When Pearl was canceled, they didn't blame Meghan. They cited cost. When Heart of Invictus underperformed, they said nothing. And now, with love, Meghan quietly crashing off the charts, they simply stopped answering emails. No news is bad news, and in Meghan's case, it's terminal. Netflix isn't being cruel, they're being strategic. In a post-strike Hollywood landscape, budgets are razor thin. Competition is cutthroat, viewership is everything. And a royal name, once considered ratings gold, now registers as reputation risk. The gamble didn't pay off, so they're quietly folding the table. No need for a headline, just closed-door consensus. This isn't working, but there's a deeper layer. Netflix didn't just let Meghan fail, they let her do it alone. No creative intervention, no executive reshaping, no marketing push. They gave her full autonomy, and watched the results roll in. Some say that was generous, others say it was surgical. Let her pitch, let her lead, let her underdeliver, and now let her go. Because in Netflix's world, every brand is a show. Every show is a bet, and every bet comes with a clock. When time runs out, you don't yell, you just turn off the screen. Meghan didn't get ghosted, she got documented. Every meeting, every pitch, every episode delivered and quietly dissected in internal Slack threads. Not malicious, just clinical. The verdict? Strong narrative, weak audience, limited return, high maintenance. A brand that wants legacy but needs rescue. And Netflix doesn't do rescue. So here we are. No scandal to dissect, no official end, no season finale. Just a beautiful contract slowly curling into irrelevance. And Meghan, she's still talking, still pitching, still hoping for a renewal that isn't coming. Because the truth is, Netflix didn't cancel her show. They canceled her momentum. They didn't say no, they just stopped saying anything at all. This isn't the kind of story that ends with a bang. No scandal, no apology tour, no Oprah interview part 2. Just a slow, calculated fate. And the worst part, nobody even noticed it was the final episode. $100 million gone in the quietest way possible. Not spent, not reclaimed, just shelved. Meghan and Harry's Netflix chapter didn't crash. It didn't explode. It dissolved. They weren't ghosted, they were observed. Every missed milestone, every project pitched and passed over, every headline that trended for the wrong reasons. Netflix didn't need to end it. They just let time do the editing. And when the timer ran out, they didn't extend it. They let it die with dignity, which in Hollywood is the most brutal kindness of all. So what now? Rumors say the Sussexes are shopping for new deals. Paramount, Amazon, anyone with a boardroom and short memory. But in an industry obsessed with retention and return, their numbers linger like ghosts. 100 more promised, very little delivered. They pitched personal pain as global content. But when the personal ran dry, so did the platform. And that raises the uncomfortable question of, was Meghan ever meant to build something lasting? Or was the Netflix deal just another safe house on the run from royal relevance? A golden contract signed in crisis, a brand play wrapped in trauma. And now that the spotlight dims, the silence echoes louder. Because even scandals trend, but irrelevance that stays. Some call this a betrayal. Netflix used the royal brand, and when the value dipped, dropped the mic. Others say it's justice, a long overdue end to a vanity project that ran on entitlement, not ideas. But maybe it's something else entirely. The moment the world realized the story doesn't work without a villain to blame. And Meghan, without the palace, without the press, without Netflix, there's no one left to fight, and no one left to film. So here we are, curtains drawn, view count closed, budget expired. What remains is not outrage, not pity, just pause. And maybe that's the final twist. The platform didn't abandon her. She just stopped being essential. Now it's your turn. Comment below. Who do you blame? Or she's Team Netflix. They gave her a chance. She didn't deliver. Business is business. It's Team Meghan. They used her name for PR and ditched her the moment numbers dipped. Team Harry. A passenger in his own brand, now stuck in a loop he never authored. That was their Team No One. They all knew the deal. It was about buzz, not legacy. The end was inevitable. Because when the show ends, some leave the stage. And some just fade from the script entirely.